Hello all, and welcome back to this step-by-step breakdown, dissection, ass-kicking, evisceration, decimation, and whatever other vile adjective you can think of for Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. This is... where are we up to now? Part 8? Holy shit. Well, I guess time flies as you're having fun, and we have a long way to go. We last left off with Rey, Poe, Finn, BB-8, C-3PO, Chewbacca, and for some reason no R2-D2. Stuck in the burrows of the Forbidden Desert of Pasaana. These burrows, as it turns out, are the home of this creepy worm-looking thing that apparently killed Darth Orgy, the Jedi Hunter assassin who is so discreet that he left his ship in the open of the bloody desert on top of the bloody plateau. So any Jedi that he is just so happened to be hunting can see him coming from dozens of miles away. But in this particular instance, Darth Orgy was running away from Jedi Master Luke Skywalker and General Lando Calrissian. Really wish we got to see that, by the way. Nice work, Disney. And yeah, Orgy just left his ship in the most findable place in the desert. How can this dude hunt Jedi when he can't even evade them? Also, side note, this is meant to be the, quote, Forbidden Desert of Pasaana.
I'm going to start where his trail went cold. The Forbidden Desert of Pasaana.
Yet this planet is apparently abundant in these elephant people who are holding a festival in that very same Forbidden Desert. JJ, what the hell? Look, it's not productive to get hung up on this, but again, Rey explicitly mentions this as the Forbidden Desert. Given what we've seen, I can't help but think it's meant to simply be an eerie name to make the planet and its terrain more memorable and distinguished from its previous clones, that being of Tatooine and Jakku. Maybe in episode 10 we'll get a fourth desert planet, who knows? Anyway, while C-3PO is telling us why he has been programmed to understand alien languages, but has also been programmed with the protocol that prevents him from translating these languages that are forbidden, which he was programmed to understand in the first place, let that stupidity sink in for a moment, we are suddenly interrupted by a giant serpent. These desert burrows were in fact made by this creature, and now the creature's slumber has been disturbed, and it's staring down our protagonists, hissing at them. Poe and Finn hold their blasters at the ready, and Rey does the same with her lightsaber. Now, for whatever reason, Rey decides to have Finn and Poe lower their blasters, and she passes her lightsaber to Finn because she believes the serpent is not hostile. Look, I'm fine with Rey using her Force intuition or whatever to sense something like that. I'd imagine a Jedi would be trained to sense hostility from creatures, even though Rey's training was complete bullshit. And hell, the phrase, "your thoughts betray you," has been reiterated many times throughout the saga. Not to mention, in Attack of the Clones, the Force has been used to subdue hostile and dangerous creatures. But the fact that Finn and Poe don't blow the creature's head off in a knee-jerk reaction is what I find questionable. Poe especially, since he's meant to be the hotshot impulsive one, they are trapped in a cave with this deadly serpent, which we can assume was Darth Orgy's killer, especially with what is revealed next. Not to mention Orgy was found in those very burrows dead. But I personally would have shot a frenzy of blaster bolts at the creature's face if I was trapped in the cave with it and I thought it was going to eat me alive, and especially if I was military trained like Poe was. Admittedly, Poe says he is going to blast it, and Finn tells him not to do it, but my point is that Poe wouldn't ask, nor would he listen to Finn. He would just do it. However, that doesn't happen. Instead, Rey can sense something is wrong with the creature, and then the serpent reveals a horrific wound it has obtained from presumably Darth Orgy, and then Rey places her hands on it, and well, this happens. JJ, this isn't a video game. This is not Jedi Academy where Force Heal is a necessary mechanic for the game to function. What the fuck were you thinking? Do you have any idea the ramifications for introducing this ability into the 9th episode of an ongoing saga in which it was never even remotely used prior by any other Jedi? Some who were trained for fucking centuries? It's one thing to bring in Force echoes and Force apparitions like in The Last Jedi. Still questionable, but depending on the execution, those can be utilized well and add more depth to the universe. But this is something that crosses a line. Force Heal is essentially Force Deus Ex Machina. It can save people from dying. It can prevent any character the plot needs to progress from certain death. It is a complete get-out-of-jail-free card for a writer who wants to pull a bait-and-switch on the audience, and we will soon see that in this very film. But just, wow. This royally fucks the saga even more than Rian Johnson did, and I didn't even think that was possible. This means the Jedi Council from Coruscant would have known and practiced and taught this damn ability to Jedi Masters, which would have taught this to their Padawan learners who trained for over a decade to become Jedi Knights, meaning Obi-Wan Kenobi could have absolutely used it to save Qui-Gon Jinn in The Phantom Menace. This means that Yoda could have absolutely used it to heal Anakin's severed arm in Attack of the Clones. This means that Obi-Wan could have absolutely used it to heal Zam after she was poisoned, so he could extract the information out of her needed to obtain Jango Fett's identity. This means the Jedi could have healed a substantial portion of their numbers during Order 66. This means that Obi-Wan could have healed this Jedi in the Geonosian pit. This means that Obi-Wan could have stopped Anakin from burning alive, or hell, even Palpatine could have healed him. Why take him back to Coruscant for excruciatingly painful surgery when Palpatine could have just used the Force? Vader wouldn't even need the suit. And Anakin could have lived up to his Force potential because all of the wounds he sustained on Mustafar would have been healed with this new apparent power that exists and can be attained with ease in the Star Wars universe. And finally, Obi-Wan could have saved Padme during childbirth, which I will come back to in a moment, because I'm not done with that by a long shot. Not to mention Luke fucking Skywalker, who trained under Master Yoda for admittedly a questionable period of time, would have still learnt this extremely important ability, one would presume. This is easily the most vital ability for any Jedi or any Force practitioner to learn. So don't tell me, oh, well, I guess they just didn't teach it to Luke, when Yoda abso-fucking-lutely would have. But Rey, after being trained by Leia, somehow, over the course of a year, learned this universe-breaking Force ability somehow, and now can use it as casually as she uses a fucking tampon. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to draw the line here. Luke never would have learnt this ability. Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon and Mace Windu and even Yoda never would have learnt this ability. And that's my point. This ability is bullshit. Unless you essentially rewrite the entire prequels and the original trilogy in order to make it blend into this already established universe in a believable way that Rey can use this power so easily as she did in this very moment to heal the serpent creature, then this ability cannot function in this universe without it breaking it. But JJ isn't oblivious to this. Matter of fact, the prequels actually did introduce this concept, the idea of Force healing. But Lucas understood this ability can't simply grow on trees, and so he wrote the concept into the story, which was never confirmed in the movies, by the way, for being an actual ability, but the concept was introduced. And it's a key plot point for the entirety of Revenge of the Sith, Anakin trying to learn Force heal to save his wife. Oh, and do you know how one learns this power? Well, JJ should know he referenced this line beat for beat in the movie, but I'm gonna let the OG take it from here.
He could actually save people from death.
The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
Is it possible to learn this power?
Not from a Jedi.
The dark side is how you learn Force heal. The dark side is the way you learn how to save others from death. Rey was training as a Jedi, not a Sith, and somehow learns how to heal people by using a power from the fucking dark side. Granted, it's not the only dark side power she uses without training in this movie, but the point stands. Rey is meant to be the last Jedi.
Oh my god, my insides are on fire!
And she's meant to be Disney's poster child, the ultimate Jedi, the most powerful Jedi to have ever lived, blah blah blah. And she's using a dark side power. A power, in fact, that Anakin all but killed himself to try and learn, despite Anakin being the chosen one, and the most gifted Jedi that Palpatine had ever seen.
I have said it many times. You are the most gifted Jedi I have ever met.
Which, by the way, Palpatine has gone on record saying that Vader would become more powerful than him.
Darth Vader will become more powerful than either of us.
So despite Rey being Palpatine's offspring, which comes up a bit later in the film, she still genetically shouldn't be able to hold a candle to Darth fucking Vader in terms of Force aptitude. And yeah, Rey's using the dark side, but the movie still portrays her as a Jedi. This script is so utterly fucking retarded, and Rey tells BB-8 that all she did was transfer Force energy, her life force, into the creature, which healed it. Well, I mean, if that's all it took, then I guess the saga would have ended in episode 3, wouldn't it? But let's be perfectly clear here, it absolutely did. Then it cuts back to the desert and we get a sweeping terrain shot of the ever-useless collection of action figures known as the Knights of fucking Ren. They are just standing on a rock, just posing and overlooking the scenery, and bafflingly, Kylo Ren isn't with them. Well, I guess we gotta have that dramatic entrance, right? Or in this case, a fucking hilarious one. but we'll get to that. Also, why do the Knights of Ren use weaponry from Lord of the Rings? Doesn't this look like Gimli's fucking axe?
Lower your axe.
Shouldn't they have fucking lightsabers? JJ, why are these guys so utterly useless? Honestly, it's just such a fucking waste. Anyway, our protagonists reach Orgy's ship, and C-3PO says that they can't possibly take off in that ship. Well, not only is this but the first of 2 ships in the movie that our protagonists use, which have laid dormant for many years, but it works perfectly fine. The ship's engines ignite without so much as a single stall, and that's all there is to it. My point is that everything that the characters need to work.
All of this just works. I'm not kidding.
The only time the characters have complications is when the script breaks law or breaks logic, and this is one of those times. Instead of leaving in the ship with C-3PO, BB-8, Chewie, Poe, and Finn, which they had more than enough time to do because, again, the ship works perfectly despite its age and location. How very convenient. Rey decides to look over her shoulder and out to the desert, and Finn asks Rey, "What is it?" as she hesitates to board the vessel, and she tells him, "I'll be right behind you." And that's it. She says nothing more and then wanders aimlessly into the bloody desert like Moses looking for the promised land. Finn has to figure out for himself that Kylo Ren is coming, despite Rey sensing it and knowing it and going off to confront him. And despite her not even needing to in the first place, because again, the ship is ready to go. But also, why not tell your friends exactly what you're doing so that they don't have to send Chewbacca to fetch your sorry ass at the risk of getting captured when you're a whole fucking kilometer away, you dumb bitch. Oh look, Chewbacca gets captured, and it's by the Knights of fucking Ren, of all things, who somehow managed to capture Chew fucking Barker despite these idiotic douchebags only carrying medieval weapons and Chewbacca having a fucking bowcaster. All of this transpires in absolute fucking silence, by the way, and doesn't alert any of the characters until Finn gets off his ass to try and figure out why Rey is taking so fucking long. And he comes across 2 transport vessels manned by stormtroopers and the Knights of Ren, and they're just sitting behind the rocky plateau of where Darth Orgy's ship was sitting on. And no one had any idea of how 2 space transporters got there despite them being in a fucking desert and can see them coming from miles away. The only even remotely feasible solution is that these ships showed up while the protagonists were underground. And yeah, it does show that the Knights of Ren have arrived from earlier, but they sure as shit weren't hiding behind Orgy's rock, and would have had to approach in one of those transports, making a fuck ton of noise and being easily spotted in the air before touching down. Not to mention, Rey can sense Kylo Ren approaching from miles away, and can sense when Chewbacca is alive on a Star Destroyer, and yes, we will get to that later on, but she can't sense the Knights of Ren, 2 spaceships, and some stormtroopers lurking just around the corner? Rey, what the fuck are you doing? Why the hell are you pulling a fucking Frodo? Anyway, so JJ makes the characters retarded so that they don't want to flee when they absolutely should in Orgy's ship. Chewie gets captured while logic and common sense were apparently taking a nap, and all under the supervision of our good friend off-screen. I give you the fucking trifecta, ladies and gentlemen. And now Finn chases after Rey while Poe keeps the engines running. And Rey just stands out in the desert like some confused mouth-breathing moron, and Kylo Ren approaches in his TIE Interceptor. Now, Kylo has said previously that he wants to find Rey and turn her to the dark side, but instead what he is actually doing is he tries to splatter her with his fucking TIE Interceptor spacecraft. And to do this, he has to fly it as close to the ground as possible. This aircraft isn't a pod racer, it's a spaceship. Why go through all this trouble to kill Rey by hitting her with your spaceship? And risk crashing your spaceship into the fucking ground and killing yourself? Hold that thought. Why kill her at all if you're trying to turn her to the dark side? And why the actual fuck, if you want to kill her, don't you just fire a barrage of missiles and blaster shots to eviscerate her from a safe distance and almost guarantee her death? Note I said almost. I mean, she is Rey after all. I doubt she would even die to a nuclear fucking warhead. But if you're gonna try and kill her, at least do it practically, for God's sake. Anyway, Rey just stands there and we get this retarded sequence from the trailers. Rey just stares plainly at incoming doom, and she ignites Anakin's lightsaber with the wrong button. Yeah, apparently the saber switch is located elsewhere in previous episodes, and then she proceeds to pull off the most ridiculously overpowered feat I've seen in a Star Wars movie. At least for the next 60 seconds, but we will get to that. Rey runs away from the TIE Interceptor, refuses to zigzag, and at the very last moment she force jumps over the TIE Interceptor, slices off one of its wings, and lands perfectly fine on the other side. While Kylo Ren plows into the ground harder than he plowed Lena Dunham's character on Girls, and proceeds to die in a crashing inferno as the TIE Interceptor has a more horrific crash than any of the pod races we have seen in The Phantom Menace. Rest in peace, Kylo Ren. Finn then tells Rey that the First Order has taken Chewbacca as he points to the sky and one of the transports begins to take off. Now, apparently that massive maneuver that Rey somehow pulled out of her ass didn't tire her out at all. Fatigue doesn't exist to this creature, so she manages to grab it in the sky using the Force in an attempt to save Chewbacca somehow. I really don't understand the endgame here. Those engines can burn longer than Rey can use the Force. Well, probably not. I mean, she is Rey. But let's assume that they can. What's Rey's plan here? Best case scenario, she puts the ship back on the ground and they take off again. Worst case scenario, she accidentally causes the ship to crash, likely killing Chewbacca. It might actually be more practical here to chase the ship rather than pull it down with the Force, but anyway, this is interrupted by, holy shit, he's alive! Motherfucking Kylo Ren is alive. He lives. He doesn't even have a scratch, not so much as a limp. Motherfucker is perfectly fine. Kylo Ren is immune to crashing a motherfucking spaceship. Unbelievable. Maybe his body was actually a mangled carcass and he used Force assembly on his fucking bone structure. Otherwise, how the fuck is he here? Seriously. And look at where he is. Look at the crash site. It should be a good half a mile at the speed and velocity that the spaceship was flying at before it crashed. Not to mention the time it took for it to come to a complete stop. But nope. Kylo gets out of his ship, walks a few meters, and he's already back in front of Rey because we need him for this next bit. Anyway, Rey uses Force pull, and Kylo uses Force push on the spaceship. Instead of holding his lightsaber at Rey's throat and telling her to stop, nah, he doesn't do that. He doesn't use Force push on Rey to knock her over and free the ship from her grasp. Nah, he doesn't do that. But instead he uses Force push on the ship itself and proceeds to have a tug-of-war match against Rey with a goddamn spaceship. All the while Finn, continually wasted, just stands there gawking like an idiot instead of shooting Kylo Ren or trying to help Rey in any way, shape, or form. Anyway, this goes on for a few more seconds, and then Rey starts to get cranky, and what happens next takes a gigantic steaming dump on any sense of dignity this shattered pieces of this franchise's lore had left. Rey makes an angry face and proceeds to shoot Force lightning into the sky at the prisoner transport ship and blows it the fuck up. JJ, I can't... What have you done? What have you done? Okay. I'm going to give this my absolute best shot. So Rey gets angry and casts Force Lightning. This is later justified, according to the film at least, by saying that Rey is Palpatine's biological heir and that she has his power. We won't discuss this just yet, but going by the rules of the universe and Force genetics, being Palpatine's granddaughter, this would somewhat explain Rey's freakish power. Somewhat. And that's me pretending that the explanation of her being Palpatine's granddaughter wasn't extremely contrived in the first place. But it does help work in justifying her power, and how gifted she is with the Force. However, as we previously touched on, Anakin was also driven to anger during Revenge of the Sith. Multiple times. And coincidentally enough, the perfect equivalent example exists, which would be the Force collision between Anakin and Obi-Wan during the Battle of Mustafar. You see, this is why the prequels are extremely important, because there's a fuck ton of good shit in there that you can reference to call out someone's bullshit. Anakin, as stated by Palpatine, has greater potential than he does, and one would presume Rey as well. Anakin is the chosen one, the true chosen one. Mad Lad is the most powerful Force entity on record. His anger led him to discover new ways of using the Force, true. For example, the first time he uses Force Choke, tragically enough, was on his own wife. But what the Rise of Skywalker is telling us is that if you're pushed with anger while using the Force, you can manifest Force Lightning from a Force Pull or a Force Push, essentially converting a universal Force skill into a Sith move, more or less. To quote JJ's own dialogue,
That's not how the Force works.
if this was the case, Anakin would have absolutely shot Force Lightning right into Obi-Wan's face, likely killing him during Revenge of the Sith in the Battle of Mustafar. But this didn't happen because George Lucas isn't fucking retarded. Okay, so now that we've established that the move itself is complete bullshit, let's discuss the holy fuck, how much damage did that do? Rey blew up an entire ship with her first ejaculation of Force lightning, which even by Palpatine standards is ludicrous since he's only used Force lightning in the past to agonizingly kill Jedi, slowly and painfully, but he never used it to blow up any ships. That would be absolutely fucking insane if he did. But yeah, Rey destroys the ship, supposedly killing Chewbacca off-screen, much to Rey and Finn's dismay. Anyway, while Rey is standing there, likely asking the same questions we are, which is how the fuck is this even remotely possible, Poe and Finn urge her to come back to the ship, and Rey follows, after taking a sweet bloody time, mind you. And all the while, Kylo Ren is just standing meters from her, within Force freeze range, and despite traveling across the fucking galaxy to find her and turn her / kill her, he just stands there gawking at her completely frozen and lets her fucking escape. Kylo Ren lets Rey, Finn, and Poe escape, and then it cuts away. It just cuts away from this. What is happening? This retard has gone from insufferable tantrum thrower to whiny crybaby to a face / heel fluctuating douche to a now complete fucking moron. This character might just be the most useless, weak, and stupid character in all of Star Wars. And by stupid, I don't mean pointless like Rose. I mean, the motherfucker is so dumb he can't do anything right. 99% of the time, he's a fucking idiot. And on the rare occasion he does do something right, he still manages to fuck it up. Anyway, this ends part 8 of this Massacre series on Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. There are 7 other videos currently out, so check those out at your leisure. And I've also started another Massacre series for another one of my most hated movies, Iron Man 3. So if you enjoyed this video, chances are you will enjoy the others as well. And rest assured, more are on the way. I also have an ongoing series called Revenge of the Prequels. It's a very specific response series that counters terrible argumentation against the beloved Star Wars prequel trilogy. That series is still a work in progress, but I'm happy to say has improved over time. Currently sitting at 14 videos, so be sure to give those a look if it takes your fancy. I want to give a shout out and thank you to all of my patrons for your contributions to the channel. I appreciate the support very much. If you would like to support the channel with a monthly donation, even if it's just $1 per month, the link for Patreon is in the description. Also, a special thank you to my YouTube members for all their support as well. Thank you to the Star Killers, the Captain Prices, and the Master Chiefs for all of your support. I really appreciate it. If you would like to become a channel member, click the join button below. Also, if you haven't already, please check out the channel's Discord server. Discord is basically an online community where followers of this channel can go to congregate and discuss various different topics ranging from Star Wars to Lord of the Rings, Marvel, Game of Thrones, and so on. I hope to see you there, and who knows, maybe you'll make some friends along the way. Special thanks to Kyle Phantom for helping with the audio editing of this video. You can check out his channel in the link below. If you're an anime fan, you may find his AMVs to your liking. Finally, if you were looking for some classy new threads, be sure to check out the channel's merchandise store. If you want to look as fly as possible and support the channel at the same time. But if you've been following the channel for long enough, you may find some memes to your liking as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for staying to the end of the video. You are a legend, and I look forward to seeing you in part 9. Oh boy, won't that be fun.